Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. And those of you who joined us at 9:30, well, thanks for being patient. This is why sometimes the practice of law, we need to move the Crime Talk studio to a completely separate location so that I am not bombarded. My plan was originally to come to the office today. I had no court, and let's go and do a live. And as all things happen, every time you go into the office, you check emails. Other people start asking questions. And to get out of my office, to make it over here to the Crime Talk studio, it's literally a gauntlet that I have to get through of a complete barrage of questions about what should we do on this? What should we do on that? Anyway, we're here now. My apologies for being late. Now, like I said, we had our live show last night. I hope you all were able to join it. If not, you can watch it on our YouTube channel as well. But I think we had a really good discussion last night. And I said, hey, we have a very unusual occurrence, which was basically I had, I think, 3 days of no court. And I've been working on a lot of projects. I think we're up to like 5 or 6 homicide trials here in the office, and they've just been super time consuming, lots of issues, just big cases, but it's been nice not having to go to court. Anyway, so I said, you know what, let's try something new. Let's try doing a live sometime in the morning. We'll see how things go. If this is a great experiment here. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then we know what works or what doesn't work. Normally we do our Tuesday night live show at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Why Tuesday night? I'm not exactly sure how we picked Tuesday night in particular, or the 6 o'clock, other than it seemed like a reasonable hour and a reasonable time to say, okay, I could probably get out of the office because as the lovely Miss Kristen has oftentimes told me, when I say that I'm leaving at 5:30, that usually means I'm leaving like 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So that's why I think maybe we just need to relocate the Crime Talk studios over to, I don't know, maybe the Crime Talk hangar or something. And that way I would have no distractions at all. I would just have to be there. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But, I've jokingly said, if, we can make Crime Talk, successful enough where Scott doesn't need to practice law, well, Scott is all in. Okay. So we can make this work. We've been doing this for those who haven't joined us before. My name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney. Been doing it for 27 years. Practice in both state and federal court, state court here in Colorado and federal court. I've taken cases all over the country over the last 27 years. And prior to that, I was a judge advocate in the Marine Corps. And, it's just my practice is such that, now we have, 5 attorneys in my firm, which is kind of a big firm for criminal defense. Usually most criminal defense attorneys are a 1-man, maybe 2-man show, so to speak. But we have 5, and one attorney does probably 3/4 of her time on some civil litigation and some personal injury stuff. But that's it. Basically, though, we started this channel years ago, really out of frustration when watching the evening news. And it started when the Chris Watts trial started. I don't know if you're all familiar with that case, but, that's where Chris Watts, pled guilty ultimately to the being responsible for the death of his wife, unborn child, and his 2 young daughters. And that's where our channel really kind of got started, because I was frustrated what was going on. These news anchors would talk and they wouldn't have any idea what they were talking about or what it meant. And of course, you only got a couple of minutes on the whole, maybe 30 seconds for the whole story, when obviously there was a lot more to it. And of course, when I said, wow, something's going to be happening, nobody vacates, this date, they reschedule it. I was like, I wonder if he's pleading guilty. And sure enough, Chris Watts pled guilty. So anyway, so the point is, I like to think I generally have a pretty good idea as to what is taking place, and should I be able to explain it. In more recent times, obviously, we had the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matter as it relates to the judge and his order that came down last Friday where he said there are going to be no cameras in the courtroom. And I said, oh, he's totally going to not allow cameras in the courtroom. You can just tell by his demeanor when he wasn't hidden behind the screen that he had up there on the bench. He just his reaction. He didn't want the cameras. The defense didn't want it. And then, as we talked about last night, how disappointing was it that the prosecution did not want the cameras in the courtroom? I just could not believe it. Anyway, it's just frustrating to me. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think cameras should be in every courtroom. I don't care if it's a traffic court, county court, or the district court. There should be cameras there for the whole world to see what is taking place. And Judge Boyce, in his decision, his order, he cited that Nebraska Press Association case from back in the 60s where a judge ordered that no news articles could be published. And the Nebraska Supreme Court said, well, we're going to tweak that a little bit. We can't prohibit you. So don't, mention anything about the defendant's confession. That ought to be okay. Well, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that's prior restraint. You, the courts, cannot tell what we're going to publish in regards to the case. It's a First Amendment violation. And so the court said you couldn't do that. And so clearly the judge has read, the Nebraska Press Association case versus Schmidt, I think is what it was. And he basically said, I can't prohibit everybody from doing this, but we're just going to deny access to everything that's taken place in the Lori Vallow case. We have the court hearing by Lori Hellis coming up on October 13th, where she has filed a motion to have access to all of the court proceedings that have been basically sealed, blocked from the public because they're too sensitive for the public to know about. And the judge keeps using this ruse that it's going to affect the fair administration of justice and prevent the defense from getting a fair trial or the prosecution from getting a fair trial. Well, if the facts are truthful and it's based upon legal argument and analysis, I'm not sure how that's going to affect anything whatsoever. Even the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, in that Nebraska Press Association said, hey, you know what? You can do a change of venue, which the judge has done. You can, delve deep into what people know about a case. And if they haven't formed an opinion, just knowledge of a case isn't enough to disqualify a jury. And I'm telling you, Ada County has some 500,000 people in it. I assure you they're going to be able to find 12 people plus some alternates, say up to 6 alternates. So let's say 18 people. Let's just round it up to even 20 people, okay? Because they're talking about a 12-week trial in that case. They're going to be able to have enough people that they're going to be able to seat a jury on, okay? So I just don't buy it. I think what the judge is doing is he's doing prior restraint without basically telling everybody you can't do it. He's just decided we're just not going to let anybody know about it. We're going to conduct these proceedings in complete, I guess one man's secrecy is another man's privacy. But the judge has basically said that he is not going to allow any information to come out about this case, which is just mind-blowing to me. And I just don't understand how anybody has been able, the court has been able to get away with it. The defense has all but allowed it. The prosecution is a willing accomplice in it as well. I just don't get it. And then you have the press. It wasn't until they were going to take the cameras away that people started getting concerned and, said, oh, well, this is bad. And so you had 33 news organizations that said, please don't take the cameras away. We want to watch the trial. But where were they when they were sealing everything? I was complaining about it, but I didn't do what Lori Hellis did, which was go out and actually file motions. And, she's received the complete runaround from the court in that particular situation. And like I said, it just uh, it's concerning to me. It's concerning to me because we're not some third world country with a third world judicial system run by a bunch of despots that is going to say what we can and shouldn't know, because basically they're all but saying you're too stupid, you're too sensitive, you don't know what is good for you, so just go ahead and trust us. And said it before. There's a lot of people out there that are coming up with a lot of weird theories about why the court is doing this. Is it because he's a member of the LDS church? Is going to make the LDS church look bad? He's doing that to protect him. I don't know. But when you run something like that in secrecy, everybody with a tinfoil hat comes out, and there is it's just very, very frustrating to me. So as of right now, no cameras. Could the court reconsider? Yeah. Is there some way that this could be appealed to a higher court in Idaho? Well, according to the rules in Idaho, no, you can't. But that the court has no appellate review. I'm not sure, even though the court is the one that created those rules, the Supreme Court created those rules, it just doesn't seem right to me that you shouldn't be able to appeal. I mean, one could probably do a separate civil action, basically saying that the court's order was basically unconstitutional. Maybe it's a form of judicial restraint. Ask for a declaratory judgment saying that the rule it's all within the judge's discretion, and it's a non-appealable order. Is maybe a violation of some sort of due process argument. I think that's what could be made there potentially, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, like I said, we normally do our lives on Tuesday night. This is a great experiment, so I want to thank everybody for joining us. The other case that I really want to also talk about is the case with Debbie Collier, the mother who was murdered under some weird circumstances, where she apparently is shopping in Georgia and sends her daughter, who's 36 years old, a lady by the name of Amanda Bearden. And her mother apparently sends her a text, something to the effect of, "They're not going to let me go. Love you. There's a key to the house in the blue flower pot by the door," and then sends via Venmo $2,385, which is very odd. And then we receive this video of her in the store, which is apparently right before she goes missing. Okay, there it is. She's in her Georgia jersey, buying, looks like some toilet paper. She has a tarp, a bag, etc. Now, some of those items are found near where her body was located. And I guess where it's getting weird, and obviously we're not throwing stones. We give the presumption of innocence to everybody. But the daughter has apparently made some weird, I'm going to say weird, let's just say some statements that are inconsistent with facts in the case. A couple of them that jump out is that apparently the daughter waited several hours before contacting police. And who knows, maybe there's a completely logical explanation for that. Why did she wait? Well, trying to get a hold of mom. This doesn't make any sense. What's going on? And also she said that she left everything at home aside from her ID and her debit card, which contradicts what's in the video. So there's a couple of weird things that don't make sense. And I'm not saying that it makes somebody a person of interest, but apparently the police have interviewed the daughter's boyfriend who lives there, and some people, although not me, because we're waiting to get more information, that what's the word I'm looking for? So no one's a person of interest. Okay. But like I said, Debbie Collier, her body's found some 60 miles away from her home there in Athens, Georgia. And, you know, she was apparently naked or partially naked. And apparently there were some burns as well. So it's a little interesting, and her body was found in this ravine. Um, in a kind of a heavily wooded area. Now the daughter is claiming, "Hey, basically we're concerned now. Our mother's now deceased, and people think we have something to do with it." The boyfriend um, basically has spoken out and said we had nothing to do with it. His name is Andrew uh, Giegrich, Giegerich, Giegrich, something to that effect. And he's the one that lives with Collier's 36-year-old daughter, Amanda Bearden. And as they said, they're scared themselves. Um, just a little, I don't know. It's a little weird. It doesn't make sense. It almost seems like somebody did something and, obviously tried to cover it up. Obviously, she's deceased, but, what is the motive? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The lady worked in a real estate agent's office as an office administrator. It's not like, you know, somebody's going to retaliate against her for something like that. It doesn't appear that anything was stolen. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like I said, they found her vehicle some 60 miles away from the Athens home. She was using a rental car during that time period because her car was in the shop. And in the vicinity of the vehicle, found her body, a burned blue tarp, and you can see that she's buying the blue tarp in the store, but she doesn't look like she's nervous, apprehensive, not batting her eyes, with an SOS to the clerk or anything like that, right? She looks pretty calm and casual going in there. But then when they find her, she's naked, charred, and deceased. Um, Obviously treated as a homicide, but they just don't really know yet. Uh, I mean, clearly she's dead, but you just don't. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's just put it that way. So we can talk about that case as well. We can also take your questions here. Now, I don't know if you can notice it, but there's a lot of people in the chat section. We don't necessarily beg for them or ask for them, but the super chats do get highlighted here on my screen, and we'll make sure that we get, uh, you know, we'll get all those questions answered. The other case is the whole Murdaugh case, Charleston Amy. My understanding is that cameras have been allowed to be permitted thus far. Now, all that can change. Yes, judges do have quite a bit of discretion and they can set all the rules out, which I also think was kind of weird that Judge Boyce in the Lori Vallow matter said, "Hey, the press hasn't done anything wrong. They followed my rules. I didn't tell them that they couldn't focus on Lori Vallow, which they did, but maybe they shouldn't." And then all of a sudden, they're kind of using that as the basis to do something. I don't know. Calling me skeptical. Do you think maybe there was something like, "Hey, if the defense were to file a motion objecting, I wouldn't object, and the judge would probably go along with it." Yeah. So the other case, the Alec Murdaugh case. Now, some people are completely fascinated with this case, and some people are like, "Yeah, don't care." And I remember when we covered the story, and the reason that we covered the story originally was when this young woman, a woman by the name of Mallory Beach, was uh, killed in this boating accident. It was down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I kind of watch the news down there because I've got a house down there. I love that part of the country. It is absolutely gorgeous. They refer to it as the low country because there's a bunch of barrier islands and it's, you're literally about 4 feet above sea level at any given point. I just absolutely love it. Yes, it's a little hot in the summer, but it is amazing in my opinion. So we cover this, and I'm like, "What?" And the news came out that, this was the son of very prominent family, the Murdaugh family, who had basically been in some sort of position of power and control of the district attorneys, which is affectionately known as the district attorney down there. It's I think they're referred to as the solicitor for like 90 years. Okay. And Alec Murdaugh, who's now on trial for murder, his grandfather was basically put on trial in the 50s for corruption, basically allowing bootleggers to get away with it. The judge who oversaw the case, now Murdaugh was one of, I think, 30 defendants, and he was one of two that were acquitted at trial. Coincidentally, Alec Murdaugh, as a grandfather, I think his name was actually Buster, and of course, Alec Murdaugh's son is named Buster as well, after old granddad. Anyway, the judge, a federal district court judge, oversaw those proceedings, basically said clearly the fix was in. Somebody was actually charged with tampering with the jury afterwards. We did a podcast on it. We didn't put it up on YouTube, but we did a podcast on it. And, if you want to check that out, it's on our podcast. If you search CrimeTalk on any of your favorite podcasting apps, it's there. But it's very, very interesting. The power structure that has gone on down there in South Carolina with involving the Murdaugh family. These families controlled everything. So the night of this boating accident, Mallory Beach is missing, but everybody kind of shows up to the hospital. Alex Murdaugh shows up. Old granddad shows up and basically tells everybody, don't worry, we're going to take care of this. You just trust us. You lawyer up. It'll all be good. And obviously kind of caught my eyes. Like, that's just weird. These guys were getting some special privileges that most people wouldn't get by the police. And it seemed like just something was weird. My gut instinct said something was just not right. So we kind of followed the case. And then it turned out that Buster, Paul Murdaugh's brother, was the one who gave him the fake ID so that Paul could go in and buy more alcohol. They had apparently been drinking all day long, and then they leave the boat dock and they ultimately run into a bridge and I guess some sort of excessive speed. Mallory Beach is thrown from the boat. They find her several days later, deceased, obviously, for a long period of time. No charges, nothing. It just seems kind of weird. And then ultimately, it's like, all right, they got to charge Paul Murdaugh. Well, fast forward, Paul Murdaugh and his mother, Maggie, who's married to Alex Murdaugh, are killed at their little hunting compound, their little hunting lodge, so to speak, that that they owned, right? And and now things are really getting weird. And so the police, they kind of have to what's the word I'm looking for? Like, oh, investigate now. We got a double homicide. Of course, Alec Murdaugh is the one that picks up the phone, calls 911, says, "Oh my gosh, my wife and my kid are deceased. Obviously, somebody killed them. I just got here. I wasn't here though. I have a pretty solid alibi. I was with my dying father, some 30 miles away or something to that effect." And so ultimately, nothing kind of happens. Then some news comes out I guess shortly after that. It was like Memorial Day, I think. Alec Murdaugh is reported that he was somebody tried to shoot and kill him as he was driving his Mercedes, I think in the Bluffton area, and maybe wrong in the area, but it's kind of like south of Charleston. Anyway, Collier County, I think is where it was. Well, it turns out that Alec Murdaugh wasn't attacked or robbed, and wasn't changing a flat tire because he had like this never flat tire. It turns out he had paid a former client of his um, to basically shoot him, and he thought he was basically going to make it look like a murder, but it was supposed to be a suicide attempt. So things are getting weird now, right? So Alex Murdaugh, you know, the police are investigating him, but before he can be arrested, he goes off to uh, drug and alcohol treatment down in Florida. I think it was in Orlando, and he ultimately, issues a statement saying, "Oh, I'm addicted to opioids. I've been addicted to opioids for the last 22 years. Nobody's known about my addiction because it's so pervasive and what have you. And anyway, I'm getting treatment." Well, then people start looking into the finances, and the firm that he had been associated with, his father, his grandfather, were founding members of. Well, it turns out they start doing an audit of all of their books because, something just doesn't seem right. And when people start killing themselves or want people to kill themselves, you got to start wondering, what exactly are they doing? Why? Why? What is so bad? What are they going to find out? Well, it turns out, maybe Alec Murdaugh had been skimming. He was the managing partner there, had been skimming money from the trust accounts, which of course made him dig even deeper. Then it turns out he's basically kind of running some sort of a Ponzi scheme where he's going to his buddies at the bank and saying, "Hey, I have this personal injury client who's going to get a lot of money. Why don't you loan them some money? And when it comes in, you can take a piece. I'll appoint you as the personal representative." It's just a big scheme where everybody's getting money, except ultimately the clients are not. So Murdaugh ultimately gets sued. Oh, I forgot to mention. He gets sued by the children of their housekeeper who's worked at their property forever, who apparently suffers an extreme uh, trip and fall. I think hits her head, dies of a subdural hematoma or something after like a week in the hospital. But don't worry, Alec Murdaugh, even though he's the one being sued, puts the family in touch with a good friend of his who's going to get a big settlement. Oh, he got a big settlement. It was like $2.5 million that the insurance company paid off. And guess who winds up with the money? Not the kids. No, Alex Murdaugh does. So all this money. So Alec Murdaugh gets charged with, I think it's 1.78 or 80 financial crime counts related to all of his financial dealings. But wait, there's more. While he's in custody, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, affectionately known as SLED, ultimately says, we're going to charge him with 2 counts of first-degree murder. And, here you are. Now, Alex Murdaugh, who's basically broke at this point, the estate that he had is being, liens are being put against it, has 2 very high profile attorneys, expensive attorneys in South Carolina. Now, Murdaugh's broke. He doesn't have any money. So it makes you wonder who's paying his legal fees. All right. And who knows? Maybe, family members taking care of it. Who knows? So he ultimately gets arraigned. The very interesting set of circumstances was the judge, a motion is brought up by the defense basically saying, "Judge, we want everything to be held in private, to protect the integrity of the case." And the prosecution kind of goes along with it too. Like, "Judge, we don't want to whip everyone's dirty laundry, because down there in the South, things are a little different. You got to be a gentleman about it." And, right. And if, they'll bless their heart if they're not so, let's, they use that term, bless their heart, basically when they're throwing somebody under the bus. Well, the judge says, "Not in my courtroom. We're not going to be doing this in secret. If there's going to be dirty laundry to be aired, uh, let's air it, so to speak." And of course, prosecution hadn't sent over all the discovery. The defense hasn't got the discovery. They demand an immediate trial. And I think the trial, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it sometime in December, Frank? I think it was December. Is rather quick. And, we'll see if that ultimately changes, if the defense is gonna need more time, but it certainly puts the, prosecution on their heels, so to speak, and, I have mentioned this before on the show, and I'll say it again. Sometimes the best defense is a great offense, and the great offense is simply exercising one's right to speedy trial, right? Most states have usually kind of a 6-month period. From the date that you say not guilty, the state has to get you to trial in that time period. Some states is even less. In the federal court system, it's if you're in custody, it's 70 days. Get your trial within 70 days. Now, and I still want to do this. Like, for example, when you have a big drug case, big complex case, say, I'll be ready in 70 days because the government's probably not ready. All right. Now, even though, just like in the Lori Vallow case, the Alex Murdaugh case, what do you see? You see a situation where they bring these indictments, and the state says when they indict you, we are ready to go. So if you show up at that hearing and say not guilty, they're going to get you to trial in 6 months. But I think it's become quite clear through these cases, the prosecution is usually about as ready as the defense is on that date. They're not, okay? So the defense has a lot of catching up to do. The state could have had a year or two to prepare their case. And when they indict, they're saying, we're ready to go. But they usually never are. And I can tell you, having won several homicide trials over the years, like, not lesser included offense, like walk your client out the door kind of situation. Every single one of those has come when we've entered a plea of not guilty and we went on the first trial setting. The prosecution wasn't ready. Okay. And that's just the way it is. We'll see. So, like I said, I think the Murdaugh case, some people just don't find it interesting, but talk about a, fall from grace. I know a lot of people love the case where the, beautiful mom is murdered, goes missing, or, kills the kids, like we have in the Lori Vallow case. But the Murdaugh case, I mean, it just shows you kind of the good old boy network down there in South Carolina. Now, I've never practiced in South Carolina in state court. A couple years ago, did a case in federal court up in Charleston. And it's just an interesting world. Like in some federal courts, if you're a licensed attorney, you can go over and pay your $200 and you're admitted into our bar here. There you had to have local counsel. Got to protect the local counsel. Can't have people just showing up here and doing a good job. Got to have local counsel, which was fine because I had a friend from the military that was our local counsel. He was great. But to hear the stories talking to people down there, it's very, very interesting. And I think that the good old boy network in South Carolina is going to be exposed for what it is, which is that it's just the good old boy network, who's your daddy, your daddy's name, what family do you come from, that kind of deal. Whereas in most places, nobody cares. It's all about, who you are. Did you do it? But when you look back at the Murdaugh family and the alleged corruption that took place over the years, that looked pretty prevalent. Now, obviously, old Buster was found not guilty back there in the 50s, but this is one of those situations where you got to wonder. Of course, there's corruption, and when you control, I mean, can you imagine all the information that runs through the district attorney's office, all basically the rumors, the allegations that they're investigated, but maybe there's not enough to go forward on. but somebody gets in trouble and you find out a little more. You have that information. You can use that information. Oh, well, maybe we'll let this guy go if we get a little piece of the action. Uh, it's just interesting, right? Oh, there's a terrible criminal case. Wow. Boy, I also heard somebody got injured in that case. Well, you probably want to use this firm. They're the ones that are well connected. That's the kind of situation that you have down there. And I get it, but you think you just want the best firm, not necessarily who they're connected to, because it shouldn't matter, right? And I don't know what it is. I've always had clients from the South, um, that they always think, well, why can't we pay somebody? Can we just, pay somebody, make it go away? And you're just like, what the hell? Like, no, we don't do things like that here. And I wouldn't even know where to begin, even if I was even thought about it for a second, which I wouldn't. I've always lived by the general principle that I've never met a client worth going to jail for, and I've certainly never been paid enough to jeopardize my law license for a client. But sometimes they think that um, that's the way it works, and it doesn't work that way. Um, let's see here. MK Crafts. I'm interested in the Murdaugh case, and I want to see a miniseries about it. I I'm I think it's gonna be an interesting case. If this thing goes to trial, I mean, I'm telling you, you get a guy, 80 counts of basically all these financial crimes. He's all but confessed to them, blaming his drug addiction. His law firm has ponied up money. I'm sure the insurance company has ponied up money. His what's the other one? His friend Lafitte is charged in federal court for basically making these dubious loans to Alex Murdaugh and basically not following, I guess, general banking principles. And I still think, like the housekeeper, the woman that she was some 60 years old, didn't make a whole lot of money. The insurance company agrees to pay her millions of dollars. Are you kidding me? Having someone who's done, some personal injury work, insurance companies just don't give you $1 million, okay? Let alone $2 million for somebody that's old. It's just the way it goes. And I think as things go on, we see that there are it runs deeper than just the banks. My guess is there's corruption within the adjusters in the insurance industry. There's too much money that went in, and it's nowhere to be found here with Alex Murdaugh. And it's just a situation where'd all the money go, right? We'll follow the money, and I know they're still digging. And then you go, well, who's paying those bills as well? Makes you kind of wonder. Makes you go, let's see here. Kathy says, Murdaugh seems like there's a lot more involved than we know. I wonder what is going on in that county and the brothers. There is a firm involved. You have to wonder, was it just, I'm not throwing dispersions. I don't want to say anything, but clearly there was a network of individuals that knew what was going on. There was also some things about maybe Murdaugh was involved with some drug runners back in the day, or his dad was, where I think back in the 80s where they were running drugs up and down Miami. It's just very, very weird stuff. And it's makes you just wonder what the hell is going on for sure. Yes, Lula, he was going to be self-murdered. Make it look like a murder, suicide attempt. It was really a suicide attempt, but it wasn't murder. But now that he didn't um, suicide himself, right? Now he's in custody and he's ready to fight all these charges because he had nothing to do with the death of Paul and Maggie. Now, even though Maggie, his wife, basically was getting a little suspicious, according to friends, had asked about the finances, kind of wanted an accounting, like, why are we broke? Why did my check that she wrote to a charity lunch that she attended to, why did it bounce? Right? Um, all kinds of interesting things like that as well. And of course, Paul, kind of the spoiled brat son He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, thought he could get away with just about anything, apparently, could do whatever he wanted. Sounds like mom and dad kinda, I mean, let's face it, they probably knew their child was not exactly, a little angel and, out there drinking and driving on the boats and Mallory Beach, and so Paul, is the one that really started all of the downfall for the, family, and, he winds up dead, shockingly, and, apparently the evidence is they have was it high speed blood splatter on one of the shirts that, Alex Murdaugh was wearing, and apparently, although we don't know for sure, but apparently there's some issue regarding some type of recording or something that was taking place on perhaps Paul Murdaugh's phone that maybe captured the murder. Now, or some sort of argument before. We don't know because it hasn't been released. We just get this in bits and pieces. Now, first of all, I find that a little skeptical. I'm skeptical of that. Why, Scott? Why would you be skeptical of that? Well, if they had that information and they knew about it, they being SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, they would have immediately arrested him. And maybe you can say, well, it must have taken some time for SLED to get their act together, to get the warrant, to get the phone, etc. Then, maybe a little excuse, but a year to go by till charges are filed. I think if it was that clear cut, it would have taken place much, much earlier than it did. It didn't. So color me skeptical. Obviously, the prosecutors have something where they put Alex Murdaugh there. Remember, he said he had an alibi, that he was with I think it was his father at his house who was ill. But then it was, no, I was with my grandmother who is in the hospital down by Savannah. Changing stories. And, this is one of the things that nobody gets. If the police are asking you questions, okay, you're probably a suspect, unless they tell you, hey, you're not a suspect, you're just a witness, okay? Frank, could we pull up our lawyer video? Okay. This is what you do when you are being questioned by the police, or they show up with their windbreakers on, with various alphabet agencies plastered all over their windbreakers. You keep your mouth shut. We have that, Frank? The lawyer one? Sorry. Let's pull up the lawyer. This is it. This is what everybody needs to do.
You, get out. Yeah, you.
All right, lawyer.
Nobody ever does that. Lawyer. Okay, let's play it again.
You, get out. Yeah, you.
All right, lawyer.
Probably the best advice anybody could possibly get, okay? If you are being investigated, somebody's showing up saying, we'd like to talk with you about anything. Lawyer, okay? But most people don't do that. They always think they're going to talk. They're just going to figure out what's going on. We're going to wait and see. Just trying to figure out what's going on. I have more clients tell me, I didn't tell them anything. I just, and they're talking to him, asking about what's going on. Oh, really? And how long did that little chat take place? No more than an hour. And of course, then they wind up putting themselves, at the location. They always do it. They never keep their mouth shut. And I'm telling you, the one thing, you look back at it on cases that we've won and everybody else has won, the defendant keeps their mouth shut. Because once you say something, you are locked into that statement. and then you look like a liar. Maybe you didn't remember that day. Maybe I went earlier to go see dad. No, maybe I was going to see mama and then I went to see dad. I don't know. All the trauma of everything. So you wait and you collect your thoughts to do that. Now, we're not trying to tell people how to get away, but it's your constitutional rights, ladies and gentlemen. You have to exercise them. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and we got to take a hard break here. We've been going, 45 minutes. God, it goes by so fast. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this short commercial message. Please go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, we're back. And during the break, I was able to get our morning drink. We've got Red Bull here, nature's sweet nectar. We don't drink coffee here at Crime Talk. That's just a little too weak, I think. No, just kidding. never really enjoyed the taste of coffee, but we've got Red Bull. Gives you wings, all that good stuff. All right. Let's go back to some of the questions here. Good question. JW, Scott, what do you think about Leticia Stauch trial taking so long and the new findings of her filing the grievance against the jail in Colorado Springs? For those who don't know, Leticia Stauch is accused of the death of her stepson, Gannon Stauch. Now we're going on, almost 3 years, I think, since the time that Gannon was reported missing, found months later on the side underneath an overpass bridge kind of structure thing down in Florida. Ultimately, Leticia Stauch makes a bunch of bizarre statements. It was just weird. Before she kind of leaves Colorado, she asks her biological daughter to pick up some cleaning supplies that just coincidentally, happened to be about the same time that Gannon goes away. The police search the house. They find Gannon's blood in the house. And we're not talking like he had a nosebleed. We're talking about a significant bleed. She ultimately gets arrested on the way back from South Carolina. Coincidentally, we were just talking about, she tries to escape. I think when she was in Kansas, when they had stopped for the evening, she tries to escape when she's in the El Paso County Jail, which is in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where she's being tried. She originally fires her public defenders. They raise competency multiple times. I think she's had at least 3 competency evaluations done. Competent. 2 for sure, maybe 3. Then she's appointed a couple of our private attorneys at state expense. They're very good, competent attorneys. They raise some issues that bring up basically a mental health defense. So the judge and the prosecutor say, hey, sounds like a mental health defense, kind of like an NGRI. And so we get to get an evaluation. So let's go evaluate her. Evaluator comes back. She's not crazy at all. NGRI, not a defense. Now the defense says, we want our second evaluation. Okay. They have their own evaluator who has come in, and there's a motion filed to give her access to Miss Leticia Stauch in custody. And, So what does Leticia Stauch do? She files motions in federal court saying that the jail is not giving her a kosher meal. I don't think she's Jewish, but she wants a kosher meal. And we talked about this a little bit last night. You'd be surprised how many people suddenly want a kosher meal in custody. Apparently it's better, maybe a little healthier. I don't know exactly what it is. Or it's just part of the harassment package. And then she says that she's being abused because she has to sleep on the top bunk and she could fall off, et cetera, et cetera. I think it goes directly to competency, goes to NGRI. I think this woman's just playing games. We'll give her the presumption of innocence because that's what she's entitled to at this point, because she hasn't been found guilty by a jury of her peers or pled guilty. So we'll give her that. But I think she's just wasting everybody's time. I kind of hope the judge cracks down on Leticia Stauch here real soon and says, okay, you've had your shot. We've given you everything that you've wanted. Now we're going to convict you. The prosecutors are raring to go. We went through her affidavit when she got arrested and the affidavit was released. She gives about 8 different versions of events, to blaming it on the lawn guy that was working in the area, must have kidnapped him. I mean, you name it. It was the most bizarre stories. She's going to be promptly convicted. So yeah, it's going to be promptly convicted. We just got to get her to trial. Charleston Amy says the lead counsel in the Murdaugh case is the member of the South Carolina House, and that's Mr. Harpatulian. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, he's a member of the House or the Senate. I think House, I guess. Anyway, apparently powerful member. And, some of the stuff he was like, well, we'll be in session when this case goes on, but he says this is more important. So he's going to take care of that. But at least, I guess he's a politician. At least he still has a job, which is good. So we got that going for us, I guess. And, but apparently he's very pricey. And like I said, it makes you really wonder, when he's making that drive from Columbia down there to the Low Country down there, Collier County, that gets expensive. I'm sure he's got a team of attorneys. There were issues going on in federal court. They were trying to negotiate a federal plea, allegedly. It's just the kind of situation where it really makes you wonder who's paying the bills. Who's paying the bills? Oh, Trish says it. Old money is what it's all about. Old money and family connections. Yep. And those are the kinds of things that, those are the kinds of things that down in the South, in my experience, I lived there when I was in the military, so I wasn't in that crowd, so to speak. But I saw a little bit of it. And yeah, it did kind of matter who your family was, family name, whereas like the rest of the world really doesn't care. Yeah, I think that's the trial date, January of 2023. So January is a busy, busy month. This brings up a point. I have 2 trials set in January, which is clearly going to interfere with our trial coverage of the Murdaugh case, the Vallow Daybell case, if it goes forward, which I'm still questioning if that's actually going to go. Assuming she doesn't have another lapse in competency. I'm a little hesitant that the Murdaugh case is going to go so quickly, but I still think that's the best tactic for the defense. Like I said, I always want to go and they have these big, huge multi-co-defendant cases, and I've seen it done once, but it worked out well for the guy. There's multi-co-defendant cases in federal court. And if one defendant says, hey, judge, I need additional time, I need to review everything, blah, 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 blah. There's too many pages, won't be prepared. There's always that one guy that's like, I want to go to trial. I want to go to trial now. I don't need to see the discovery. Let's do this thing. Let's go. And the government's like, well, okay, I guess so. We'd like to keep them all together because they just try to wear them down and have them plead guilty, so to speak. And but if you go for it, right? Government's usually not ready. Hell, I've had people literally tell people that that they we're not ready yet, Judge. We need more time. We can't find a witness. We can't do whatever. And it just doesn't matter. So go defense, go in the first setting. Let's take a look here. A couple more questions. Okay, look. Donna, I find the Murdaugh case fascinating. We need to keep eyes on the case because I still wouldn't be surprised if the good old boys might let Alex slip out the back door. Wouldn't that be crazy? Yes, it would. But where would he go? You remember, he still got his son Buster, all his family's there. I think his family is kind of supporting him, even though, he probably exposed them to millions and millions of dollars of losses in their law firm. All the audits that probably are going to take place by their bar association, the insurance companies are going to want to be reimbursed. I mean, it's just huge. Yes. All about the dollars. Went up his nose. And I agree. It's always about the money, ladies and gentlemen. One of the 12 undeniable truths from a criminal defense attorney. It's always about the money. Okay. And when they say it's not about the money, then it's about the money. Bottom line. Bottom line. And of course, the number one undeniable truth from a criminal defense attorney is there's two types of people in the world. Those that are humble and those that are about to be. Alex Murdaugh should have been a little more humble. Should have thought, hey, maybe we're doing some shady stuff here, but we should at least be nice about it. We shouldn't get greedy, right? The old pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. It seemed like he was doing okay, but at some point, it seems like he just got a little too greedy. You can't get greedy. Let's see here. Oh, I agree. Yeah, very suspicious of the insurance company. Was there someone in the firm's back pocket? I just don't believe the firm Alex was working with didn't know. Well, I don't have any direct information whether the firm actually knew exactly what was going on. They may have said, wow, this guy is generating lots of money. He comes from the good family, got an image to upkeep, driving the Mercedes, having the summer house, you name it. I just don't know. But I still think the insurance company, somebody in the insurance company was in on it. There's no doubt in my mind. And no disrespect to the housekeeper. And I can't want to think of her name off the top of my head. But the reality of it is that insurance companies don't pay that much money. Okay? Insurance companies look at, okay, here's your damages, right? What are your out-of-pocket expenses? What are your medical bills? What are your lost wages? She was a housekeeper. No disrespect, but it's not like she was pulling in 7 figures a year, right? Maybe she had a week in the hospital. Okay, still not, even if she's in the ICU, even if it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, they don't pay 2.5 million and say, oh, pain and suffering. No way. They're going to say, this is what insurance companies think. All right. Insurance companies are generally evil. They're going to say, well, yeah, but she hit her head pretty quickly. There wasn't a whole lot of suffering. Did we mention she was old and she didn't make a whole lot of money? And the insurance company say, do you remember she was in poor health and all of her poor living up to that time contributed to this? And you can't blame the dogs. The dogs loved her, blah, blah, blah. She tripped on the dogs, apparently. Insurance companies don't just write a check for $2.5 million just like that. It just doesn't happen for somebody that's old. I'm telling you, I've seen these negotiations. Insurance companies don't do that. The fix had to have been in. Raymond, you find out who your friends are when the feds get involved. Well, I would go one step further, Raymond, and say that you find out who any of your friends are when people show up at your doorstep where you get arrested. And, understanding it's a, I'm sure people have had friends, you make a mistake, they get a DUI, maybe something else happens. You find out who your friends are. I tell clients all the time, you're going to find out who your friends are here in, this period of time. They're either going to stick with you. Maybe they're going to tell you, don't condone what you did, but you're a friend of mine. I'm here for you. Whatever I can do can help. Or they're going to run for the hills. And normally they run for the hills. Scott, I watch your podcast all the time. I would like to know if Lori and Chad will get what is coming to them. Thanks, Daniel Pittman. Daniel, I believe Lori and Chad will ultimately be convicted at trial. Will they get the death penalty? I don't know about that, but I think they're going to be convicted. I really, really do. Let's see here. Denise, does the Judge Boyd's decision to keep cameras out of the courtroom help or harm public confidence as to the defendant's rights? Well, I think it harms everybody. I think that's why I was so disappointed that the prosecution went along with this motion. I'm disappointed that the judiciary went along with this motion. The judiciary could have come up with some sort of balancing test. They should use the least restrictive means possible when it comes to this. Maybe set down some guidelines saying you can only focus on the court, the attorneys, and the witness on the witness stand, something to those effects. That's why I think this was the opportunity for the judiciary. In the legal community, one of the things that the judiciary often does is they have law day where they try to expose people to the law and the Constitution and things of that nature. And like where I practice here in Colorado, our Supreme Court, when they have oral arguments a couple times a year, they go to high schools and they conduct the oral arguments basically in the gym or the theater, so that everybody can see what takes place and let people know what the courts are doing. And so I thought this would have been a great opportunity for the courts to say, listen, this is a great opportunity, a very serious case, but we can still maintain the appropriate judicial decorum in the courtroom and still allow people to see what is taking place and to show that the even-handed administration of justice will take place. And we are going to protect not only the defendant's rights to a fair trial, but we're also going to make sure the prosecution gets a fair trial. And we're going to make sure that the prosecution is held to their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And then I think they squandered that opportunity. The judiciary did it because, frankly, it was just easier to do. It was just easier for them to do it that way. The prosecution should have embraced it. The prosecution should have embraced it because they could have used this opportunity to say, listen, everybody out there, if you commit crime in Idaho, we're going to get you. And we're going to show you that we're going to give you a fair trial, but we're going to convict you and maybe impose the ultimate penalty. And, one of the principles of the legal system and rules of law, principles of sentencing is to punish, obviously, the wrongdoer, but deterrence, not only for the wrongdoer, but for others that would consider these same acts. Well, how do people know that they should be deterred unless they have an idea of what actually took place? And they said, they say, wow, these prosecutors may be really good. I wouldn't want to mess with them, man. They mopped the courtroom up with those defense attorneys. They were right all the time. They had the case law. They were ready to go. And so I think it harmed public confidence in the court system in Idaho, maybe even as it relates to, the defendant's rights, but I don't know. The problem is we don't know. I have it on pretty good information that one of the issues that's going up on appeal has to do with some information regarding the prosecution and possibly people in the judiciary. But of course, we don't know that, right? Remember, Mr. Pryor, on behalf of Daybell, he had filed some motions basically to throw out the indictment to disqualify the prosecutors, etc. And the court allowed a couple of those issues to go up on appeal. Of course, we don't know the extent of it because, it's all sealed because it's too sensitive to know. I have it on some pretty good information. I haven't seen it myself. That's why I'm always hesitant to say something when I haven't seen it myself. But I have it on pretty good information that there's some alleged misconduct. And I won't go into it because I don't like to spread rumors, so to speak. But the person that informed me of this information, I feel as though I can trust that particular individual. And so I am just curious to see. But if the defense isn't going to raise these issues, don't get me wrong. Mr. Archibald for Lori Vallow seems like a smart enough guy. Kind of seems like I don't want to say, how do you say this? Kind of like a go along, get along kind of guy. Let's go through the motions, not going to disrupt anything. No cameras in the courtroom. Good. Nobody's watching. Hey, maybe we cut a deal, which is fine if that's what, the client wants. But it just really makes you wonder. It seems like the defense in a death penalty case, the judge mentioned it in his order. It said, in a death penalty case, it's unusual for the prosecution and the defense to agree on anything, but they agree on this one thing, which is, don't let the cameras in. So therefore, I'm going to, highly consider that, right? Now, some of that is true. Yes, the death penalty cases. I had a death penalty case. It was going to go death, but we talked him out of it before we got to trial, which is good because that's one less thing you got to worry about. But I have friends that have done death penalty cases, and yes, they disagree about anything. Which courtroom should we be in? Your table is bigger than my table. They can't agree on anything. So it makes you wonder, like, why? Right? Why? Hell, in these type of cases, look at a lot of these high profile cases over the years where the defendant literally gets a fan club, a following, right? Because they go to trial. You would think it probably helped the defense a little bit. The prosecution, just as a function of their administering, justice in this particular case, you would think that they would do that as well. They would want to have that there. I don't know. I think it harms everybody. And I've said this before. I think cameras should be in every courtroom ever, in all of them, so the world could see. You should be able to say, hey, let's take a look at the Denver courts today, or let's take a look at North Dakota. Who's got court that day? And obviously it's a local decision, but why would you not? If you have faith and trust in these people that have been appointed or elected to administer justice, and you want to see just what's going on, maybe it interests you, or for whatever reason, I think should be allowed to see any courtroom that you want to. But that's just me. Does there need to be created cameras and audio in all courts? Cops have body cams. Courts should be mirrored as well. I would go one step further, Nancy. I would put videos in every government office so that we could see what goes on. I think even in courts, we should be able to see what goes on. Basically, even in chambers. Not that we need to be listening in, but who's coming and going? Who's working? Who's showing up at 8:30 when they're supposed to be there at 8:00? Who's leaving at 4:30 when they should stay till 5? I think the public has a right to know that. People are on their best behavior when the videos are rolling, so to speak, but also makes people more prepared. We had a case years and years ago. I've mentioned this before, I think. We even got the video up, and I can't remember when it was, but we did a show. It was with ABC News where they followed the defense around, which was my case. It was a child abuse resulting in death case. And they followed the prosecution around in preparation for this case. And it was called In the Jury Room. They think they did 10 episodes of it. One was in Ohio, and then one was here. And they got permission to videotape the jury deliberations of the case. And it was called, like I said, In the Jury Room. And then, like I said, they followed from the beginning to the end. Now, I was so young at the time. I remember somebody told, "Hey, they're looking for this case," but the people I was court-appointed counsel for this young lady, but the people that did it thought that it would be good to show what lawyers do, how the process works. The Supreme Court, I think, thought it would be good to show how the process worked, and I think everybody was found guilty in that series, at least in Colorado, if my recollection serves me correctly. But my client was found guilty of a misdemeanor and not the child abuse resulting in death, thanks to yours truly. But I think it showed people that this is how the process works. The jury system is not exactly perfect, but still better than most systems. And it works, but it put everybody on their game. My concern was the time, like, I was so young, I didn't know. I just, they're going to do a trial. They're going to follow around. Okay, I guess so. Didn't really think much about it, but it does. It puts you, try to put you on your A game, so to speak, because you don't want to look stupid. And of course, if you lose, they're going to say, "Oh, you were just out showboating for your client or for your self-interest, not looking out for the best interest of your client." And at the ineffective assistance of counsel hearing, Exhibit A is the video. Fortunately, in my case, it worked out. But yeah, that's exactly the situation you have to worry about, I think. But people, when they know the cameras are there, and I don't think it's in a bad way, but they try to do better. Again, but lawyer shirt at the convention. Yeah, CrimeCon. We were out there. See, Sammy, forgive me, but that Murdaugh thing's not my cup of tea. That's great. Hey, you can't please everybody, right? Let's see here. Scott, I love the morning time. Scott, I love this morning time live. I was on with you up last PM in the Patreon show. Thanks, Norma. Everybody else streams Tuesday PM too. Still melting in Palm Springs. That sounds like a good problem to have. Okay. Because getting cooler everywhere else. Enjoy it. It will get colder. Right. But thanks, Norma. Thanks for watching us live last night and then being a Patreon member, doing that as well. The Patreon show that we do, it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good last night. I think we had some fun. We had some good callers because we allow people to call in. Who knows? Maybe we should do that today. Let's see here. Yes, Heather, CrimeTalk search is only for the United States. Sorry. But I'm telling you, we talk about more cases where people meet on dating apps and, they go on a date. Two people go on a date and only one returns from the woods, right? Bad news. People go on these dating apps and they will go with anywhere with anyone, but then they'll be like, "Oh, but I don't want to pay the $20 for a subscription that lasts an entire year." I think it's $20. That lasts for the entire year that you can use more than one time. You can Google. I mean, you can search everybody. It's more than just Google. It's a comprehensive background search. And is it going to pick up everything? If they're super old records, maybe not. But most people are probably dealing with people in the last 20 years. If they're committing crime recently, they're probably going to commit crime again. Just bottom line. But if the guy's a sex offender, we had a lady, literally testimony we put up a while back where she's like, "Yeah, I was dating this guy, getting good, and then come to find out that he was arrested for doing things to children, doing bad things to children." Put the kibosh to that relationship. It's just common sense, right? When somebody dates somebody, you want to find out as much as you can with somebody about somebody. why wouldn't you go the extra mile? It could save your life. We're talking, I think it's $29 is what it costs. And you can do one search, you can do 5 a day. You could do 5 a day for the next year, and you're going to be able to do it. And literally it is done while you wait, and you get the report. You can have it emailed, you can confront somebody with it. Hey, is this right? You'd be surprised how many people have, sent us letters or, a quick short email saying, hey, I did it. I was a little skeptical. And next thing you know, it may have saved my life. There's so many people that go on these dating apps. Why would they do that? Nancy, stop the Red Bull. Kills your heart and kidneys, dude. Nancy, I'm working on it. Okay. I've cut down on the Red Bull. This is only my second 12-ounce can today. Now, I understand, yes, I need to, once I drink a can, I need to, drink about 2 gallons of water to flush my kidneys. But I sometimes just need that little oomph in the morning, and I don't do coffee. So, yeah. But I appreciate the concern, Nancy. I really, really do. My daughter is a nurse practitioner. She tells me the exact same thing. So yes, I get it. I will do better. Thanks, Nancy, for caring. The lovely Miss Kristen tells me the same thing too. Alec Vendera, what do you think about the Colorado train crash with the suspect? So this is a weird case, and I kind of made headlines, but I haven't had a whole lot of chance to look at it. But it was up in Weld County, I do believe, where the Weld County sheriff had put somebody in custody, placed him in the back seat, and somehow the car just happened to be on the railroad tracks. And when the when the train was coming down the railroad tracks, it hit the car, injuring the arrested person in the back seat. Something seems weird there to me. I know there's stuff about it. I haven't looked into it more closely. Sometimes when those cases break here in Colorado, I give it a couple of days. I try not to do it because you'd be surprised how many calls we get. I mean, just about every big case that we've had here in Colorado, I usually get a call from it by somebody. So I try not to, say something. I mean, all the big ones. So yeah. Yeah, Leticia Stauch claiming about her kosher meals. She's not the first. I've had clients. I'm like, you want a kosher meal? Didn't think you were, didn't know you were Jewish. And they were like, oh man, I was just trying to get it. It's better food, better selection of opportunity. I mean, the games people play in custody, the games people play when they're in custody, it's a game. It's a cat and mouse game. That's what they do. Scott, did you hear about the case of the county solicitor that killed the journalist here in Las Vegas? I hope the trial is televised. I'm not going to attend in person. If not, I'm going to attend in person. Well, Jenny, I just want to make sure there was I don't think it was the county solicitor. He was like I thought it was like the clerk and recorder or maybe treasurer or something like that. And he was having an affair and basically allegedly wound up killing the newspaper reporter who did that. But then you also had the guy that was the prosecutor for many years who killed somebody like 20 years ago and just got extradited back from Hawaii. I think that case is in Reno. Everybody's capable of doing bad things to people. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but it is. It is. Words matter. do evil things, you win evil prizes. That's right. Sherry, she's looking forward to the Murdaugh trial. I am, which brings me to another, like I said, I've got 2 trials in January. We've got the Murdaugh trial set to start in January. We have Leticia Stauch in there. And although we have CrimeTalk 1, CrimeTalk 1 cannot fly fast enough to get back and forth to all of these. Maybe we need a new CrimeTalk 1. That's what we need to do. Not going to say I haven't been looking. They're just so... And for those of you who don't know, CrimeTalk 1 is we have a little airplane. I've been a pilot for many, many years and have a little plane. Use it mostly for work. And we've taken you all flying on a couple of occasions. And you can also go, we have a couple of videos up at Plane Talk as well, a little channel that we have. But like all things in life, don't you want something that goes a little faster, farther, higher? Absolutely. And I think this is maybe one of the justifications for it. How are we supposed to be able to cover these cases and be able to go to the trial, assuming they're not going to allow cameras in there, so that we can go sit in it, if at least not for the whole trial? Yeah, I think we need a new CrimeTalk 1, something that goes faster. Maybe there's something that looks like that. Wouldn't that be sweet? Cessna.
Yeah.
Citation. Or, yeah. And I have a second in command. I was going to get a type rating one of these years ago. Then I got called back for work. So I never got to finish the type rating. So it's just a second in command, which is about useless. I think we need one of those. Let me know if you think if it's a good investment. Probably terrible investment. But it would be great to be able to literally... What did it take when we flew over to Idaho, Frank? It took like 2.5 hours, I think.
Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours. We could get over there to Idaho in an hour if we had one of these bad boys. So think about it's a time machine. I've always referred to aviation as a time machine. And we could get to more places, do more things in less time. Yeah. Let's see here. A couple more questions. I'm not sure who Marlene's referring to. I spent so much time going through and reading his tweets and his blog. He acted like it wasn't bothering him. Obviously it was. Oh, is this Alec Baldwin, maybe? Oh, that's the other story that I think is going to be coming up very, very soon. Another case that we need to be able to get down there rather quickly to, and that would be down to the Santa Fe area, which doesn't take long. We could do that because he's probably going to get charged here in the next several weeks. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Let's see here. Alexandra states, Buster has to feel so betrayed. I don't know. I think Buster, he got kicked out of law school for cheating. And Dad was helping him get back in, even from his jail cell. So, yeah. Let's see here. Lampshade. I'm glad no cameras. Watching Amber's narcissistic face was torturous. Seeing Lori giggle knowing she's a child murderer would put me over the edge. I know, but for the rest of us, though, Lampshade, I think we should do it. And I think I just saw some news here. Amber Heard, she's back in the news again today. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at this. She's back in the news today. Hires new attorney as she fights the insurance company over the $8 million bill in the defamation case. Recently hired another attorney amid the appeal of her $10 million defamation judgment. And as 2 insurance companies fight over who will cover the actress's $8 million legal bill. Apparently, Heard's homeowner policy with Travelers Insurance Company and New York Marine had insured her on a commercial general liability policy. Both policies covered personal injury and libel, but Travelers was only liable for $500,000, and New York Marine's policy was for $1 million. However, both companies were reportedly responsible for defending Heard, meaning they were financially liable for her defense, which is true. They have a right, they have a duty to defend. But if there's an excess judgment, she's on the hook for that. Apparently, then Travelers is claiming that New York Marine's appointed attorneys, Timothy McVoy and Sean Patrick Roche, piggybacked off of Roberta Kaplan and Elaine Bredenhoff. And in response, New York Marine alleged McAvoy and Roach were intentionally kept out of the communication regarding Heard's case. Now, New York Marine then said that this meant Travelers had unclean hands, meaning the company is ineligible for restitution due to acting unethically or in bad faith. McAvoy, Roach, and Kaplan no longer represent the actress, and in early 22, New York Marine paid Travelers $621,693 for Heard's lawyers. However, New York Marine wants their money back because obviously the jury found that Heard defamed Depp on multiple instances and awarded him $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive, though the later judgment was reduced to $350,000, which is the maximum which could be awarded in Virginia. Depp's attorney was also found to have defamed Heard, to which the court ordered him to pay $2 million in damages. New York Marine and Travelers have both cited a California law regarding willful acts as the reason why they should not have to cover Heard's $10 million defamation judgment. Apparently, Heard has hired Kirk Pasich, Pasich, to help recoup the legal bills and civil judgments from the two insurance companies, which is always surprising because, that same kind of situation happened for Ghislaine Maxwell. They were paying for her, insurance companies were paying for her defense on the civil stuff because there's a defamation clause in some homeowners policy, I guess. But defamation is an intentional tort, which is usually not covered by insurance. Usually they cover negligent acts, but it's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to fight this out forever, regardless of whether Amber Heard loses, wins, whatever. Johnny Depp has successfully achieved his goal. Let's face it, Amber Heard will probably never work again. She'll be broke. Any money she has will go for legal defense issues, but heck, she's doubling down on everything. So, what do you want to do, right? I don't know. Did Murdaugh fly on the Lolita Express? Tina wants to know. I don't think so. But I don't have anything. I don't have any information of that, but I don't think so. Let's see here. Okay, this was the let's go. Julie's jumped in here. What's happened with the Lori Chad Daybell case? Well, they're set for trial, but there will be no cameras. And that's right, words matters. Everything's sealed. Tina, did the sovereign citizen killer file his motion to represent himself today? Frank, do we have that video up? This went on for over an hour yesterday, but this is the judge. I think her head was about ready to explode. This is the guy that plowed through the Michigan parade, killing, I think, 6 or 7 people. Now he wants to represent himself because he's a sovereign citizen. Take a look at this. I think the judge's head was going to explode.
I want you to have this information because it's important for me in order to honor your request to represent yourself. that you have understandings, and I think this documentation will help. I'll hand it to my clerk, they'll give it to the bailiff, they'll give it to you. Nope, I'm talking, sir. Nope, listen, Mr. Brooks, we are done here today. Okay, I cannot make a finding at this point that you have an understanding of what you're charged with, the nature of these proceedings. I am not going to get into a debate about whether you're a sovereign citizen or not, or even whether you have any understanding of how the state is a plaintiff in this case. My sole reason for being here today is your motion through your attorneys to consider your request to represent yourself. You have demonstrated through this hearing that you don't have a basic understanding of some of the things that are going on. So I'm going to give you time to consider this request. Talk with your attorneys more because they still represent you. They have not been discharged in this case. And if you decide that you want to represent yourself, then that form, that waiver of attorney form, needs to be filed by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then your attorneys can make a request of my clerk, and I will schedule this for sometime tomorrow. If that does not happen, they remain your attorneys. But at this point, sir, I cannot grant the request because I cannot make a finding that you understand what's going on. But that has been done because of frankly, the word game that you are employing with me. You can roll your eyes all you want, sir.
I mean, because it's.
So I'm done. If need be, we will come back tomorrow.
It should be noted.
But at this
They the
point,
ones
the
that
court's in
filed. I
recess.
didn't
Thank
file
you,
nothing.
sir. We're adjourned.
Yeah, whatever.
Go.
I mean, you see the attorneys there just sitting there like they're probably saying, please file that motion. Please file that motion. So now it's like, judge, district attorney, you see what we've been dealing with. That's what they're probably sitting there saying, see what we've been dealing with. I hope the guy doesn't represent himself. You know, the old adage that he who represents himself has a fool for a client. I truly, truly believe that. You always get yourself an attorney. I tell people, when they call, I don't care if you hire me, you need an attorney. So if you don't retain me, maybe we're not the right fit. Maybe you can't afford our firm, whatever. The reality of it is you need to get yourself an attorney. How does somebody know the rules unless they've been practicing in court? When you go to court as a pro se defendant, ladies and gentlemen, you are held to the same standards as a practicing attorney. The judge doesn't help you out if you are pro se, not at all. They don't help you with the rules of evidence. No way. You are held to the same standard as an attorney. You can't get that piece of evidence in, nothing. Now, the only thing the judge is supposed to do is if there's some sort of error that's taking place that maybe the prosecutor's overreaching, they have a duty to do that, but they would have a duty to do that even if there was an attorney there. But stupid to go pro se. I truly believe it. And you always hear of the case where somebody said, the pro se guy won. And, I've joked with DAs and like, yeah, I lost to a pro se client on a traffic matter or something. There's always that one case out there, right? But generally, when you're charged with multiple counts of homicide, generally not a good idea to represent yourself. Okay. You want to know the best legal advice you can get anybody? I swear to God. It's if they're charged with anything, they're suspected of anything, and they say, "Oh, I want to look. I don't want to look guilty." Right? It's where it's there. It is.
Lawyer.
That's it. Lawyer.
All right, lawyer.
You shut your mouth. You let the attorney do the talking. You let the attorney advise you. But nobody ever does that. Who says, bring the doggy Crime Talk hoodie back, please? I think you can still get those, can't you, Frank? All the items are still up. Yeah. If you look at the links, it'll take you right to our merchandise page. I don't think we've taken anything down. I don't think they've been taken down. And what's the other one? We got the new shirt up as well. It has a little plane on it because, if you haven't noticed, kind of like I like airplanes. This is great. Rhonda, corporations were created to do things people wouldn't do, like insurers. I work for an insurance defense lawyer who said, insurance companies have all the attributes of dogs except loyalty. I get it. And I mean, we've dealt with insurance companies. I have some other, business ventures. And over the years, we've had to have insurance, on somebody says, oh, I slipped and fell or something like that. And, then they're like, oh, but you guys didn't do this. So we're not sure. We're not going to provide coverage. I mean, it is just nonsensical. I mean, where else do you pay somebody a ton of money and then when you need them, they say, sorry, not available. Wow. I can't believe how many comments we have here. Although I see a super chat that popped up on your screen, Frank, but not on mine. Can you click that and put it on the main screen here? Paula wants to know, why can't we watch the actual Vallow trial? I can see stopping pretrial, but don't agree. But once the jury's seated, it shouldn't matter. Well, Paula, you'd have to ask Judge Boyce. That's my whole issue as well. And who would you rather have the information coming from? That hopefully it's going to be accurate, right? From the court directly, or people that sit in the courtroom that maybe don't know exactly what terminology is going on, i.e. newspaper reporters, TV reporters that don't understand. I assure you, I would, what's the word I'm looking for? Our subscribers, our viewers here on Crime Talk probably know more than most reporters do about the criminal justice process and the way things go. Seriously, I have to ask Judge Boyce. Uncivil Law, who we've been on his show, and I think he's been on ours, hasn't he? I can't remember. I thought so, yeah. I said I would lose it too with the sovereign citizens too. So much contempt would flow when I become a judge. I know, but you can't. You know that, uncivil law. You can't do that. If you have to, I think the judge showed great restraint, but put it on the record, go ahead and roll your eyes, Mr. alleged killer defendant who wants to represent himself as a sovereign citizen. And don't, like I said, full disclosure, I have represented people that have been sovereign citizens. I probably will again someday too. You just never know. But I usually have to have a frank conversation with them that says, whatever you think, it's usually nonsense. It's gibberish. That 600-page motion that you sent to the court, all handwritten, is gibberish. And usually what wakes a good sovereign citizen up is a threat of jail, right? I've seen him in court, if they get pulled over for, no operator's license, right? Saw this case once. It wasn't my case, but I was sitting in court and the guy, had a warrant. He appeared on a warrant for like no license or something. And he ignored coming to court because he was a sovereign citizen and he wasn't going to do that. And he got arrested. And then he found out that the court does have jurisdiction over him because he got arrested and he was in court. And all that nonsense ended. And basically it was like, okay, fine. Can I plead guilty and be on my way? because it gets real when all of a sudden, how true do you really believe this stuff when you're in custody and you're shackled and you're looking at facing more and more jail time? So yeah, don't get me wrong. They're nice to talk to, very, very pleasant. But the reality of it is that you've got to see it. I mean, it's just real. Who's this? Oh my God, I've seen guys go into SVT and 2 cans of Red Bull. Well, Tommy, I'm not sure what SVT is, but it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. But I'm telling you, I've cut down. I think I've developed a huge tolerance. Frankly, if Red Bull would like to sponsor us, I have a fridge. I have a Red Bull fridge in our kitchen here. We've got the big fridge, but then we have our own Red Bull chiller. I haven't filled it up in a while, but yeah, it's, I don't know what SVT is, but it sounds very, very bad. Can you hit that? Yeah, I didn't see that. Super chat here. Just Jake. Scott, may I request that you stop picking on my fellow Floridians for dumb criminals? We know they are here, but we don't need everyone else to know. Sorry. As we talked about this last night, somebody wanted to know how do we come up with our dumb criminals? And usually that task is delegated to Frank, and he comes from it. Maybe we'll lay off because the hurricane is pummeling Florida. We'll try to come up with somebody else. I'm sure we can do it at least for a couple of days. And we hope everybody out there is doing well and hopefully not going to be too affected by the hurricane, because obviously nobody wants anybody to get hurt or die, anything along those lines. But that somebody sent him on a where he used to live, apparently is flipped cars over and things like that. And it looks like it's pretty big. It looks like it's pretty big with max winds of 155 miles an hour. But it looks like, the utility trucks are ready to go so they can restore power pretty quickly if and when it goes out. I mean, it's undoubtedly they will. But how's that for a nice segue into another one of our sponsors here? Emergencies, they happen. Unexpected emergencies happen even more frequently. And in my lifetime, would you ever have thought that there would be shortages? I mean, people are like, oh, it's the new normal. Well, I don't like any new normal. You used to be able to walk into the store and there was everything you needed. You just walked in, it was always there. No supply chain issues, nothing. Imagine when a catastrophe hits, right? You got a madman over there in Russia threatening nuclear war. Like, what the heck is going on in the world today? You have to be prepared. So when you go to crimetalkprep.com, guess what? You can get 20% off a 3-month meal supply there. And you're going to be able to have these food items, these goods. We've had them on the show. So they come in these big buckets for easy storage. They last up to 25 years. And hopefully you don't need to save it for 25 years. But the point being is you want this stuff when the emergency strikes. When the emergency hits, it's too late. It is too late. This happens every year. We have hurricanes come, right? That shows the stores completely picked over. Are you prepared? What happens if things are down for weeks, months? What are you going to do? Snowstorms come. You just never know. You have to be prepared. You have to take care of yourself, because usually if everything's shut down, it means the government's going to be shut down as well. So you're going to have to be able to take care of yourself for days, weeks, months, if possible. So go to crimetalkprep.com, get 20% off your 3-month shipment of food supply. You don't have to buy 3 months. You can buy more. You can buy less. But that's what the special is today. So anyway, hopefully the hurricane, I think it's Ira going through down there, will hopefully not create too much damage. And I don't like the path that it's taking because it shows basically it kind of goes over, was it Cape Coral, Tampa Bay area, shoots across, probably lose a little bit of steam, but then goes back into the Atlantic there, and then circles back by, Savannah. Yeah. So, yeah, just gotta do it. Let me just... yeah, so it's the coverage of it. I mean, it goes right through Cape Coral, Northport, across Orlando, off into the Atlantic, and then looks like maybe curls back around down there by the low country of Savannah and things like that. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it doesn't create too much damage. Obviously it's going to create some damage, but hopefully the least amount of weather as possible or damage, and hopefully no deaths. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Ultimately, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, and going back to this. SVT. What is that? But it sounds terrible. Civil law. Uncivil law. Maybe I should be covering this case, or maybe I shouldn't because I'd be losing my mind. I can tell you, every time a sovereign citizen goes to trial, they make these ridiculous arguments whereupon a jury of their peers usually convicts them. And it's just ridiculous. Literally ridiculous, the stuff they come up with. And, they don't believe in case law, unless, of course, it helps their position. Everything needs to be ignored unless it helps them. I remember talking with clients over the years, and they go through their spiel, and you're like, man, it's like I spent an hour on the phone with this guy, and I don't know what the hell we talked about. Like, you're just like, it's so, and you try to bring it back. I'm telling you, do not ever represent yourself in court, particularly if you're a sovereign citizen. Oh, did you just send me what's an SVT? CrimeTalk, you've mentioned you'll be in Idaho when Lori's trial start. Will you be the entire time? Susie, that would be great. That would be great. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to go the entire time. They're talking 12 weeks for this trial. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be there for the whole trial, but 12 weeks, that's right. As of this point, I still have that pesky lawyer job during the day that requires me to do stuff. Now, maybe if I were to find one of these and I could go back and forth literally on a daily basis, that wouldn't be too bad. But I think we're going to need a few more super chats for that to make that happen. No, just kidding. If Nate Eaton, who we've talked to, seems like a good guy. He's going to be there. He's the one that kind of followed this story early on. That's good. He'll be there. I think he's done some very good reporting on this case. He also has a direct line to the Woodcocks as well. So, yeah, I mean, I know they were very disappointed with the court's ruling as well because there are so many people that want to do it. Caffeine pills is a way to go, much cheaper too. No. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. I'm behind a few minutes because of buffering, but the judge being so upset she's standing up at the sovereign citizens is hilarious. Also, shouldn't everyone have stood because she did? Haha. It depends. I've seen judges that have stood at the bench. If they have a long docket day and their back is sore, or they just, they want to get up and move around, as long as they're being recorded. Usually if there's a court reporter up there, I've seen judges stand up. It's not disrespectful anyway. I didn't see it, but somebody could sit down, but who knows? I mean, I remember stand up, sit down. Now everybody's like, oh, have a seat, just remain seated. Everything's becoming more casual. Okay. 20 years ago, even if I didn't have court, I'd be wearing a suit, not in a sport coat thinking, I don't need, you just never know. They call me to court. Oh, what if a client comes? Everything in the world has become so much more casual. But I don't think, I think she was losing her patience with Mr. Sovereign Citizen man there, but I don't think it was anything disrespectful. She was just like, oh, we're done. I'm leaving. You file your motion. As far as I know, he has not filed his motion to proceed pro se. So hopefully the judge's little lecture and their little colloquy that went on before that little tidbit where it ends was the type of situation where, she is explaining to him. She said, I don't have any guarantee that you even understand what you're doing. You have no right to what this concept is. Yeah. Mr. Reich, are you giving up on Lori Hellis and thinking she is going to lose on her motion? Oh, I'm not giving up on Lori Hellis either. I've said Lori Hellis, who's filed motions in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matters to get open access to the records and the sealed court proceedings. I've said it before. I'll say it again. She's my hero. I've talked to Lori numerous times. We met in person when we were at CrimeCon. I think she's great. I'm not giving up on her whatsoever. I think that she is absolutely correct. Do I think the court will come up with some lame reason to deny her motions? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. So no, we are not giving up on Lori Hellis. I've told her, and I'll say it again publicly, as I've told her privately, if there's anything that I can do to help you, please let me know. I got 4 other attorneys that can do research, draft, whatever we can do. That is a standing request, so that if she needs any help, she can do it. I'm putting up a sign in my court that says, sovereign citizens who deny the jurisdiction of this court will be shown the authority without delay. Forget lawyers times 3 contempt. That's funny. Yeah. Although we're going to have to talk about this on civil law. I think you mentioned it when we spoke that you want to be a judge someday. I just don't want to be a judge. I just do not want to do it. I think most people don't realize exactly what judges do. Maybe appellate judges, maybe. But even then, okay, here it is. Marlene, SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. It is an irregularly fast or erratic heartbeat, arrhythmia that affects the heart's upper chambers. It's possible. Okay. But my heartbeat is like super low, Marlene. Just want to let you know this. Like when I go to the doctor, go to the physical, get all the super low heartbeat, chill. Maintain that even level, right? And it's weird because I don't know what it like I used to run a lot. Run 4 marathons. Let's just say I'm not in that good of shape anymore, or lately. I could probably lose 30 pounds, right? Who couldn't? But it's weird. I can go months, weeks, years without exercising, jump on the treadmill and go run, 3 miles, no sweat. I don't know. Okay, fiddlesticks. There it is. Supraventricular tachycardia. Sounds bad. That's for But yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's see here. What's this? Hi, Scott. Have you mentioned in your video at CrimeCon that you are 6'3"? My question is this an advantage in court? Greetings from Germany. Mark wants to know that. I don't know if height has anything to do with it. I don't think it hurts, right? I don't think it hurts, but I don't think it helps in any way either whatsoever. Patricia wants us to know that apparently a live update, New York man found guilty of crime 40 years ago. Probably some pesky DNA in there. Will there be a Crime Talk episode tonight? Aviano? Yes. Why not? We'll come up with something else to say. We're just experimenting with this, right? Sometimes we've had thousands of people on a live. Sometimes we've had, a couple hundred, 700. Today's been pretty steady, right about the 500 mark, which is fine. Like I said, we're trying to experiment. We're trying to experiment because we get a lot of comments. Hey, you should do this. You should do that. And so I ask people, well, what do you want? Some people are like, hey, we really like more of the lives. Other people said, hey, we want more of like your vlog stuff. Like, what do you do outside of work? We really enjoyed when you take us flying. We really enjoyed when you went to Texas to see your daughter. Who knows? Maybe I got some footage from Nantucket. Maybe I should show you my Nantucket visit a couple of weeks ago, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Martha's Vineyard, which was in the news recently. It's just a different world up there, ladies and gentlemen. Different world, to say the least. 99.9% of the people, all very nice, very humble. But then there's that small percentage of people that they just think they're special, to say the least. Nancy, you boys are killing me. Listen to the nurse. Get off the caffeine. Go for a walk. Deep breath. Jesus, dude. All right, Nancy. I know caffeine's bad for you. And I could probably stop drinking it just like that. It's not a big deal. But I think my heart's in pretty good shape. But you never know. I mean, who really knows? We've all known people that are, you just never know. You just never know. Known people that have just dropped dead. Boom, dead. It's the worst thing. Exactly. See, there you go, Jenny. If caffeine is the worst thing they partake in, then we should lay off. Listen, little Red Bull. I don't drink. I do love a good cigar, although I did not have one last night because we were here late and my little cigar shop on the way home was closed. Rebecca, why don't you write a letter to the court like Lori Hellis did? Well, we could, and I've even asked Lori if you want to put my name on it, but or join in on something if that would help her in any way. I think she wants to go it alone, but that's all right too. And like I said, we'll help in any way possible. If I'm going to start writing letters to the court, then I need to be prepared to go over there and do that, which is fine. We'd make it happen, I guess. Like I said, Lori, she's my hero. I've said all along, where was the other press? And although I don't know, consider us press, but kind of, we provide analysis, so to speak. But, I lump myself in there. Where were we when Lori Hellis was out there doing yeoman's work, trying to do it? So yeah. Possibly we'll consider it. Sadavoros. I used to drink 2 Red Bulls a day, but I love Bang. Lots of flavors to choose from. I've seen those before. Love you too. I love every time you read something dumb. It says, oh, okay. Okay, let's see here. Charlotte, I don't wear a tinfoil hat, Scott, but I believe the LDS Church is directing the players of the Vallow trial. The judge prosecutors should recuse themselves. They are compromised, both LDS. Charlotte, not saying that you're not correct, but what proof do we have of it? That's what I've said. Okay. And that's like all things in life. We've mentioned this before. This is what I've learned as a criminal defense attorney over the years, as an attorney, right? It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what you can prove. So, Charlotte, I get it. You're probably correct. But what evidence do you have of it? What proof could you go into court with and say more than just, I know this is it? I believe this is what's taking place. What evidence do you have? What witnesses do I call to say, yes, we've been pulling the strings we've been communicating with the prosecutor and the judge in this case to, tamper with these judicial proceedings? What evidence do we have of that? And that's what you got to be able to do when you're going into court. You got to be able to say, here's the evidence, Judge. It's not just somebody writing it on a piece of paper. I think the LDS Church is behind this. They're directing the players. They very well may be. But how do you prove it? Do you have personal knowledge of it? You actually saw something taking place? You saw a conversation? You have an email? If you've got that, bring it to me. I will put it up in a heartbeat. But it's like anything. It's what you can prove. Okay. So, and not saying that's a tinfoil hat thing. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of people out there that are coming up with some crazy theories now. And I don't think, I think the LDS Church is very powerful in that part of Idaho, just like they are in Utah. So yeah, Scott, denial is fun. Rebecca, what's this caffeine talk? We were talking about the preferred drink of CrimeTalk here. Nature's Sweet Nectar Red Bull. And people that care, Nancy said, don't do that. It'll kill you. And that's how we got into that. And then everybody keeps saying SVT, SVT. 50. Okay, look, see, fiddlestick. Yeah, it's got to be over 150. I think we're in the heartbeat for SVT. You can still have other cardiac arrhythmias with a low heart rate. Oh, swell. Jeez. So what you're telling me is we're going to die, right? Yeah, there we go. Must be the smoking cigars that keeps your heart rate down. It relaxes me. Oh, there you go. Could you do CrimeTalk Live from the treadmill? Inspire us all. Yeah. So when I woke up this morning at like 2 a.m., I couldn't get to sleep till like 4 a.m. What I should have done, instead of flip-flop or maybe looked at my phone, was I should have got up and taken my fat butt down to the treadmill or the Peloton or the rowing machine and use one of three of those. But instead, I chose to do nothing. I got caught up on emails this morning. But yes, maybe we'll try to do that. This is funny. One of my buddies espouses the theory that Florida has so many criminal idiots because the interstates end there. I've never thought of that way. Nancy, I appreciate it. Thank you. You're right. Listen, I'm sure I shouldn't, as my daughter, also a nurse, tells me shouldn't smoke cigars, shouldn't drink Red Bull. It's bad for you. And you're right. And when you stop going out and partying as a young 20 something, let me know. We can do that together. Let's see here. Thanks, Scott. Your content is amazing. Everybody, don't forget to like the live. That's right. Like, subscribe, share if you haven't. We'll probably put this up on the podcast as well. So if you missed something, you can go back and watch it. Although this will be up as well. It just depends. Okay, let's see here. Get back to some legal issues. If an attorney-client information is privileged, how is the New York AG using the information provided by Michael Cohen to bring civil action against Trump and criminal actions against others? Well, so when you're talking about attorney-client communications, the question then becomes, well, who holds the privilege? The client holds the privilege. Only the client can waive that privilege. So let's say Michael Cohen goes to the AG and says, hey, I don't like former President Trump anymore. He's a dirty, rotten, Ryan scoundrel. He threw me under the bus. I wouldn't have had all of this exposure on me if I wasn't his attorney. And then next thing you know, I get busted for tax fraud. How dare he do this to me? Let me tell you of all the evil, bad things he did and what he told to me. Well, guess what? That's attorney-client communication. Now, the attorney general can go try to look that information up another way. There's no like Fourth Amendment issue there, like, what they call a castigar issue, where you say something in a proffer and they can't use it against you, but they try to come up with another way around it. But they can go look and say, like, hey, this is where the dead bodies are buried, or this is where you need to look for the accounting issues, right? Well, the person who holds that privilege, if they can prove that the other attorney revealed that privilege, they're going to have damages. Cohen, it doesn't matter because he's already been disbarred, so he doesn't have a law license to take. I don't think he has a pot to piss in, so it's not like they're going to be able to sue the guy. And he's not going to come to testify at the trial. So the attorney general would have to get the information from some other source to do that. Because if Cohen was called to the criminal trial or a civil trial, he would be precluded from testifying because there would be attorney-client privilege. So bottom line is that wouldn't be coming in. The real claim would be if the other person are damaged and it came from the attorney, then they could possibly have a suit against him. It's what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Cohen, when you I don't know. Regardless of what went down with Cohen and he had a falling out, I mean, that's kind of sacrosanct. I mean, you just don't do that as an attorney, go around and, reveal attorney-client privileges like that. Lawyers just don't do that. I don't care if you've been disbarred, you still shouldn't do that. But he did. So I don't know. It just bugs me. I've seen lawyers arrested. I had a racketeering case years ago. Guy was stealing a bunch of money. The attorney was nearby. The attorney got arrested, and he probably could have walked out the door that same day, that within minutes, by just telling them what they knew. But sorry, somebody was talking into my ear here. It completely distracted me. Sorry. And I saw something here. Somebody says that drinking Red Bull was sociopath, something to that. Did you see that one, Frank?
No.
It was, I don't know if it's on your screen or mine. Anyway, I got distracted. See, this is why we need a separate studio. I got people over there talking. Noise is going on. Hopefully y'all can't hear that. Scott, is there anything we can do to try to persuade the public, Judge Boyce, to admit to cameras during trial? I mean, I guess people could write a letter, but really, what's going to happen? Probably nothing. Can the attorney for the media do anything to help combat the judge? No, because it's not an appealable order, which is just ridiculous to me. Surely, hey Scott, I've watched Idaho courts for 42 years. Believe me, the good old boy system is alive and well. Laugh out loud. They will mess up this case. They are not qualified. Old in Idaho. I'm starting to think that have some serious concerns about the prosecutors in this case. Why would they not want it to be transparent? And I'm telling you, government, they work for us, right? They work in that case for the state of Idaho. Why are they not saying we're going to be transparent? The public has a right to know. They should know what's taking place. And if they're all a bunch of LDS members, they've all but said in one of those interviews that they were interviewing that it's not the following. What these people were thinking was not the following of the LDS Church. So you'd think they'd want to make that clear that this is not what we believe, right? But we'll see. Now I'm looking for the comment about drinking sociopath. It's your sociopath or something if you drink Red Bull. You should never smoke, drink, or do caffeine, and you'll still die tomorrow. It's funny. I think the judge may have a different point of view than the non-LDS. We have to remember, I mean, not everybody in Idaho is a member of the Mormon Church. In that part of the state, it's near Utah. It's very, I mean, I think there are lots of non-Mormons in Utah. Clearly, they're the majority. But in Idaho, I think there's even less. Let's see here. Oh, here it was. Yeah. Scott. Yeah, he could have walked out with a few minutes being arrested, but he's like, I can't tell you anything. It's attorney-client privilege. Took him a couple of days. That attorney spent several days in custody while they figured out that he had nothing to do with it, but they jumped the gun. And yeah, that's good news. But that's what lawyers do, right? Protect the client. Bottom line, that's what the job of the lawyer is to do. We had a client that did something the other day where he wanted to appeal on a guilty plea in federal court. Well, we still had to perfect the appeal because that's what he wanted, but it doesn't mean that we, thought it was a good move. It was just crazy. On civil law, I think a letter writing campaign is a good idea. It can hurt official courages to use petition for redress. I get it. I'm not a big petition writer. I wish there was something more of a way to do it through the legal system so that the judge knows he can't just change his mind on a whim. If we wrote, well, I think the interesting case is the Nebraska case that the court cites regarding restraint. That is the Nebraska Press Association versus Stewart, which was the judge that ordered the no writing about the story, and the Supreme Court said you can't do that. And the Supreme Court said, hey, you need to consider a couple of things: changing the venue, which they've done; postpone the trial to allow public attention to subside. Probably not going to happen. Ask searching questions of prospective jurors to screen those out who have, see whether they have fixed opinions as to guilt or innocence. And obviously clear instructions saying that it's the duty of the juror to base their opinion, their decision based upon legal and competent evidence in the case. That's what jurors are told all the time. Those could be accomplished. So although the judge cites this Nebraska Press Association v. Stewart case, a 1976 Supreme Court decision, and they said, that's prior restraint. And really what the judge is doing is saying, well, we know prior restraint. I can't order you not to do it. But if I don't provide you any information, then you've got nothing to report. And that's really kind of what the court is doing. It's a form of prior restraint by saying we just won't give you any information at all. So there's nothing to write about. And like I said, the thing that's so confusing to me is that why are both the defense and the prosecution doing it? Right? I just do not get it. And they kind of assumed we never heard as it related to Chad Daybell in any way. John Pryor never jumped in there and said, hey, I'm for or against it. The judge basically said, well, it's the motion of Lori Vallow's attorneys. Apparently nothing was filed. And all of a sudden, well, we're going to ban it for Chad Daybell's trial as well because it's a joint trial. Okay, Real Pocahontas says, I beg to differ. I have family there, and there are tons of Mormons. I mean, I think probably are. What about loyalty to God? If you believe in that, the basic rules to get broken. I don't know. I mean, I would cite the Nebraska case and saying what you're really doing is engaging in prior restraint. Sorry, I got distracted there by something that came in here. Linda, I love the daytime show. I'm retired and get bored. Almost 70, been drinking and smoking for many years. Ain't dead yet. Enjoy your Red Bull, my friend. Well, somebody I think said it was, I didn't see it. It was going by fast or whatever, but it was like basically narcissistic behavior or something, sociopathic behavior. Really? Wow. Even though the Daybells are a weird version of the Mormons, they're still Mormons, and the judge is going to keep everything on the down low. Can't necessarily say. I mean, it's just a matter of proof. How do you prove it? How do you prove it? That's what it comes down to. Even though the Daybells is a weird version. And Nora responds to that. Not true at all. Yes. Quit talking about me bad because I'm Lori Vallow. Yes, Chad had a list of 20 people who were zombies. Yes, he did. He truly believed that he could tell. Let's see. Crime Talk. I'm covering Kristen Smart, the mystery maven Esquire. Scott, I'm covering Kristen Smart, and the judge decided no video or audio. It's bad. And almost most information is sealed until just recently. I got a real problem with that. The mystery maven Esquire, and I'm sure you would agree with me, 99% of all cases, you could walk into the courthouse and say, I want to see the court file. Now a lot of things are digital, but you used to be able to walk in and they would pull it for you. You fill out the little slip, you fill out your name, your phone number, and say, I'm going to go over here and copy it. And I want a copy of everything. They take out maybe judge's notes or something that were in there for obvious reasons. But I don't like the way the courts do this. Who are they to decide what we should be able to see and what we shouldn't be able to see? The courts are supposed to be public. We're not supposed to act like a bunch of third world despots where the decision's already made and we're going to protect people. And yeah. So let me know, the mystery maven Esquire, if you think I'm wrong on that. I truly believe that I truly believe the courts should be open to everybody. And there's embarrassing stuff. But like I said, how much more embarrassing could it possibly get, right? How much more embarrassing could it possibly get than being accused of killing your two children and killing your new husband's ex-wife, right? For Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, same thing, killing your new wife's children and allegedly killing your wife. How much more embarrassing can that be? One of the reasons why cases settle It's because people don't want their dirty laundry aired in court. But the court shouldn't be the ones to say, hey, you seem like a nice couple. It's maybe a little embarrassing. We'll just keep it from everybody else. Why? I don't get it. I don't like it. And we're seeing more and more of it. And, I think we need to call it out. Scott, have you watched the Dahmer series in Expert? Have you experienced a crazy case such as this where you refuse to represent the defendant? Compassionate RN. I have started watching the Dahmer series. I thought it was only 3 or 4 episodes, but somebody said it's like 10. Maybe they're not out yet. I don't know. My first words to describe it were disturbing. Okay. The number of, clearly this guy had some weird sexual fantasies and became aroused when he was doing terrible things to people and then allegedly chopping them up. And well, it's not allegedly, he pled guilty to chopping up and eating them. And the other thing was disturbing was so many times that he almost got caught, but didn't. He got cut a break, or he was able to talk his way out of it. Now, have I ever experienced a crazy case where you refuse to represent a defendant? I have never refused to represent a defendant based upon the terrible things that they have done, allegedly. I have refused to represent individuals who were A, not going to listen to me, wanted to do their own show, or B, I previously represented them, got them through their matter, and would never go back and represent them again. I had a client once that was so bad. We were in trial, and literally I'm being told, you suck. The prosecutor is so much better than you. We're losing. I'm going to get up and walk out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you need to sit down. And of course, before trial, I was gracing some sliced bread. Oh, guess who won the trial? Yeah, this guy, right? And then the client was like, oh my God, I was just scared. I'm sorry. Please, you're the greatest thing ever. Please, Scott, forgive me, right? Then they get in trouble again. This other attorney calls me up and is like, hey, Scott, you represented this person. Would you do it again? And I said, the retainer is $1 million. And the other attorney laughed and chuckled. And I said, no, you don't understand. The retainer is $1 million. This client would call in the strangest hours of the day, usually right around dinner time or late, expected everybody to drop at a moment's notice for her, was mean and rude and belligerent to the staff. I said, if you ever are rude to my staff again, I will drop you as a heartbeat. I've told that to many clients over the years. You don't get to disrespect my staff in any way whatsoever. And so the attorney laughed and said, no, it was $1 million. And he chuckled. Like, I was like, no, I mean it. She is the worst. That client was the worst person ever. I will never do it again, except for $1 million. They got other counsel. There's some clients that are just not worth, I don't care how much money they pay you, but I didn't see it. Scott, what's up with the moderator? Scott mentioned the sociopath-like behavior comment 3 times, and you can't put that up. I didn't. I saw it scrolling by on a different screen, and then I went back to look for it, and I can't find it. I would put it up, but I can't find it. I can scroll back through. Maybe, is there a search function there, Frank, that said something like, it was something like, I just saw it go by. Yeah, you talking about this is like sociopathic behavior or something like that? I'm like, what? But I don't see it. Maybe somebody took it down. I didn't take it down. I don't think I've seen. I don't take stuff down. I'm kind of a free speech advocate. Scott, I think a big mug of tea every morning and at least 4 cans of Nature's Sweet Nectar, Pepsi. I have no trouble going to sleep. There you go, Nanax. yeah, I don't take down comments. There's some comments every now and then. People are like, oh, you're the worst. The other night, last night when I was up at 2 a.m., I guess earlier this morning, it says, oh, why can't we do this for juvenile or whatever? Was it Red Bull references to psychopaths drink it? Perhaps. Maybe that was it. It was going by fast. Oh, you can control F chat for questions. Oh, I don't know. I have to find it on the page. I don't know. Yeah, somebody said it was a while ago. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't take stuff down. I mean, there was a comment last night when I couldn't sleep about 2:00, and I'm assuming it was a lady based upon her name, but I never know for sure on YouTube page. And it was something to the effect of, why can't we do something about juvenile justice? They're beating, they're killing, they're abusing these children, yada, yada, yada. But then what would you do? You wouldn't be able to exploit them, et cetera, et cetera. And, I responded back. I think I was quite polite. And, it's just like, really, I mean, the problem is, the people that are in California. I don't work or live in California. If you got a problem that needs to start there, what are the people in California doing with the system? I'm not saying that children don't get abused when they go to the equivalent of prison for children, YOS, but you usually got to work pretty hard to get there. And you've probably shown somebody along the way that past performance is indicative of future results and that you're heading for a life of crime. I don't do a whole lot of juvenile stuff because I just don't like it. The juvenile courts, I'm a did my client do it or not kind of guy. Yeah, we'll do the mitigation stuff, but my experience, anything juvenile related, is that the decisions made by a bunch of caseworkers and social workers before the defense attorneys get there. My job is, I'm a litigator. Can you prove my client did it or not? Because not, my client and his family would like to go home, but they want to, put all these services in. But of course, if the family doesn't want to do the services, I just don't have the patience for that. I just don't have the patience for that stuff. That's why I don't do it. So yeah. Was it a Red Bull? Yeah, I think that was it. I saw something kind of, maybe it was when people were distracting me or something like that. Crime Curious. If you want information about active warrants, do you have to ask the attorney to call the courthouse and inquire on your behalf? No. If somebody has an active warrant, they can call down there and say, I'd like to see if there's an active warrant for me. And the person will usually tell them over the phone. If not, you can always contact your local bonds person. They usually have somebody that they can call and, figure out who's in custody as well, or who's going to be in custody because there's a warrant. Question: if they burnt the bodies in the Daybell yard, how come no one mentioned the smell? Good question. Frank, can we pull up that video of our drone footage when we were out there at the Daybell residence? Because when it first came out, you thought, hey, this is really far out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, it is kind of rural as well. But that's the road that we parked on right there. That's a road, I think, that runs east-west, if my memory serves me correct. That's going east towards the mountains, I do believe.
Yeah, something like that.
It was very hazy that day. Yeah, northeast, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, then the video will turn around again here, and it will show the Daybell property. The Daybell property is not that big. There it is. So that's the Daybell property off to the right. And yeah, you would think somebody there. There's neighbors directly to the south. There's neighbors directly to the west. And you would have thought that somebody would have observed, smelled something. Maybe everybody just stays away. So yeah. Okay, here it is. I just said your complete disregard for our health concerns is sociopath-like behavior. Drink that Red Bull with a smile. Just kidding. Drink Red Bull as well. All right. I knew it was something there. Like I said, I don't take stuff down. I am a big advocate of everybody. Opinion should be heard. I mean, just think of all the stuff we talked about last night, even on DNA stuff where they, do these calculations. I got this letter in that said, hey, remember that case where you guys litigated everything? You said there was contamination in our lab and they denied it and said it was terrible, blah, blah, blah. And then this audit came out and said, oh yeah, I guess your expert was right. Sorry, we did an audit and there was contamination in the lab on all the DNA. But yet we were looked at like we were a bunch of idiots. How dare you question these people? They wanted to get this doctor fired from his teaching position because how dare he question them and their procedures and what have you. It just really pissed me off. And I want to get that letter framed and put it in my office because it just shows you, if it wasn't guys like the little criminal defense attorneys, the guys that everybody hates until they need them, doing their job, right? This stuff wouldn't come out. Hey, Scott, what do you think about the court proceedings on the show Better Call Saul? I'm halfway done with that series and wonder what you think about the representation of public defenders and firms. I haven't watched all of that Better Call Saul, but they do some stuff in those shows that you wouldn't get away with. Some of it's not very realistic at all. Somebody, Caro says, neighbors did mention the smell. I saw it in an interview, but it was after the fact. I bet they just thought it was dead animals burning. Yeah, it's, you can see though, I mean, it's not so far in the middle of nowhere where nobody would do anything. It's hell, it's on the main road. There's traffic there. I mean, I remember pulling out when we were on that road to head back into town and you had to wait for traffic. I mean, people were coming and going. So I don't know. All right. Well, wow. Can you believe it was already been 12 o'clock, 12:20. Can you imagine? 2 hours and 32 minutes. And she says that she drinks it too, Red Bull. Yeah, that's right. I just a complete disregard for our health concerns and sociopath-like behavior. Drink the Red Bull with a smile. Just kidding. See, yeah, I'm a firm believer. Put it all up there. Put it all up there. Good, bad, or ugly. We don't delete stuff here. We just don't do it. All right. Hey, well, we'll see we'll look at the numbers. I guess we'll see if this worked, if people liked it, enjoyed it. Obviously, we didn't talk about any cases that were being streamed anywhere, but maybe we'll do that in the future. It just depends on schedules. Hey, but, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, have them subscribe because, Scott would like to be able to jump in a Crime Talk 1 and go to these court proceedings and bring it to you on the ground versus having to say, no, I can't do that this week because I got a busy court schedule. Let's see. Red Bull Wing at your local hospital here. So anyway, all right. I want to thank everybody. We'll still have a show up. We'll do it later. Like I said, this is an experiment. We're trying to figure out some new things to see what you all like. We're taking your suggestions. We're seeing what we can come up with. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.